Welcome back. The time has finally come to do the stock market script. And I want to build something on this script that I've never seen done before. I'm sure it exists out there somewhere, I've just never seen it. A universal stock market script that is usable no matter what your level of stock market investment is. Specifically, it'll work if you've just got TIX, you've got TIX4S data, if you've got the ability to short or place limit orders, which comes way later in the game. No matter what kind of combination of permissions you have, it will be a efficient script that uses the minimum amount of RAM to get those permissions fulfilled, to use those permissions to their maximum ability. So let's create a script. Money.market. And I'm expecting this video will stretch over 2 or 3 episodes. The first thing I want to implement is a permission system using a permissions grid. Really common way to handle Boolean permissions, whether you have the permission or you don't. Used in sysadmin stuff like chmod. Use a permissions grid that when you do chmod 777, that 7 represents exactly what we're implementing. It could also be a 5, it could also be a 1. But what that number represents is a binary number that looks like this. This is the 1's place, 2's place, and the 4's place. So that is 7. And these numbers are write, read, and execute. So that value means write. That value means you can read and execute but not write. That value means you can execute, but not read or write. And I guess you could do something like that, or like that. You can make them in any combination that you want. But basically, these 1s and 0s are if you have a permission for that function. And that's what we're going to implement. So I'm going to start by creating a constant. We'll call it ACL, Access Control List. And I've figured out there are 6 potential access controls that can be applied to stocks. WC, TIX, WC4S, TIX4S, BN8 limit, and BN8 short. And if this spoils anything for you, sorry, but you will be able to limit and short stuff later. And then we have to assign a value to these. So WC is going to be 1, TIX is going to be 2, WC4S is going to be 4. I'm just going to call these limit and short. A little bit easier. 16, 32. Perfect. So we've created a constant and we've assigned base 2 values. So this represents 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. And this is 1, 0, 1, 0, and so on. All right, now we need to set whether a user has these permissions or not. So to do that, we're just going to instantiate a variable called permission set to 0. Then we're going to add to that, we need to get player, import base player. Let's get our normal player model. New base player, and as we call them player. And inside the player model, we have like player.mark.manual.wc. And so since we set permissions to WC as 1, I'll probably just do ACL.WC times. Since this is a true false variable, a Boolean value, when you do an integer times that, this becomes 1 if true, and it becomes 0 if false. So this will be, if they don't have WC, this entire expression will evaluate to 0 and it'll be plus 0. Otherwise, it'll be plus 1 times that. Okay, and then we'll copy and paste this a few times. ACL TIX, WC4S, TIX4S, limit and short. I'm going to comment these out right now because I don't have that data, but we know that TIX is API.tix. This is all available on getPlayer. And then I called this one 4 sigma, and I called this one API.4 sigma. So these values will be set before we ever get into the script. This is set by base player. So we'll know the booleans of these. That's all we have to do. At this point, permissions will equal an integer value that is the sum of all of these. And we know that we are summing them because they're very specific values, so that we're setting bits in that final value that is summed. All right, so how do we use this? Probably the easiest way to explain it is to just print something out. Say ABC. And TIX4S. And then we'll print out permissions and ACL dot. All right, so what this will print out, this AND operator here is the bitwise AND. It's not the same as double AND. Double AND is like if you have true on this side and true on this side, the whole thing becomes true. It's a Boolean AND. This is bitwise AND. It returns true if the integer value here and the integer value here have the same bits that are 1 or 0. So you don't have to know like in depth how it works, just know you can use it like this. And have to put that double bang in front of it because we want this to render true false. I'll actually take that out and just run it so you can see what it does. Like right now it gives you 1, 2, 4, 8 because we have all of these things. But when you add that double bang, it just returns true. So we're just doing it so that we get a true false value. All right. Now we know that the permissions are working. We can do, probably want to create a class for stock. Now let's go back to the terminal and create an interface, call it stock, class stock, do a constructor, pass in the ticker, same format as our other classes, this underscore ticker equals ticker, and then we'll do a get ticker return this dot ticker. That way we have the getter value returning this. It's for the cache, makes it store nice in the database. We could just do this dot ticker equals ticker, but we want it to be exactly the same as our player and our server to reduce complexity. And what do we need to know about a stock? What might end up being a descriptor of a stock? Because everything related to stocks we want to live inside this class. Specifically, I'm going to call this a base stock. Because later on we're going to extend this and have more complicated stocks. Well, I'm looking at the list of things you can do with stocks, and a lot of this stuff requires ticks, like get max shares. Being able to buy and sell stocks requires ticks. Getting prices requires ticks. So that's literally all we can do, just the ticker. It's completely useless, I know. But we're going to stop there. That's fine. We have a function that's completely useless because now we're going to extend that. We say stock 4s.js, and into this we're going to import base stock. Actually, I got to export base stock, and I'll export as the default. And now we'll extend that class to say I can't start it with a 4S, 4 sigma stock. No, I think I'll start with TIX. TIX stock. And because we're extending something, we've got to super it. And now once we have TIX, so this will be the class that a stock is given if we have TIX API, and then we will have access to all the TIX functions. So max shares, price information, position. We'll be able to buy and sell. I'll call this go long shares. And then we'll do get long cost shares, get max long, unbuy. I want to use get sell because that gets a little bit confusing when you're dealing with shorts and stuff. We'll just call it unbuy, which means sell a long position. And then we will do an async update cache. And I'll probably just copy and paste this from the other one that we created before. Perfect. Might as well go on and do async update cache on if.stock using our standard. Let me see if I can find one I've already done. Yeah, here we go. Puts it in the stocks database, updates it every 6,000 seconds, and then I also need the list getters function. Yeah, and if you're not using the cache or don't want to worry about the cache, you can skip these last two functions. All right, so here we've got, is that all the functions that TIX has? Double check. Note that this is specifically TIX, not TIX4S. So TIX4S also has forecast and volatility. But yeah, this looks like all we can do with TIX. Get the price, position, and buy and sell. Perfect. So we're not going to fill any of this out yet. I'm going to go on and finish adding my classes. So next class I'm going to create, we're going to call, oh, and I actually named that the wrong thing, stock.4s. That's going to be our TIX. And then I have stock.4s. This is going to be a class 4 sigma TIX stock. That seems fine. It's a little bit complicated, but 4 sigma TIX stocks have access to all of TIX. As well as forecast and volatility. Now let me just make sure everything looks right. All right, so this is TIX. Got to export default TIX stock, and then we're importing TIX stock, and then we'll export default class 4 sigma TIX stock. All right, I'm happy with that for now. Let's go in and fill out some of this data for what all these things do now. I think want to unbuy, sometimes we'll want to unbuy all our shares, and sometimes we'll want to unbuy some of our shares. So I'm going to say shares equals something, and we'll set the default to the max shares, but we don't know what that's going to be yet. Okay, how do we get max shares? Return this type s.stot. Done. Price. Actually, I'm going to have to return two prices. I'm going to call them the bid and ask. Actually, I don't even like bid or ask because they're hard to remember what they mean, but bull and bear are easy to remember for me. The bull price is the cost to buy. Bear price is the cost, the value to sell, cost to short, whatever. Get position is going to return that position array. Actually, we'll probably want to let pause equal get position this dot ticker, and then we'll follow the same structure we did up here. The bull position is 0. This in the stock.get position returns a 4 value array. The first is the number of shares you have. Second is the price you paid for them. Third is the number of shorts you have. And the fourth is the price you paid for the shorts. And I'm actually going to throw in something else called value, which is a complicated formula that I've already written. This describes how much money your position is worth, and it's only complicated because of the shorts. They're like reverse profit. I can't actually use this thing that I already wrote. I was just writing it in testing. But it's going to be pos 0 times this dot price dot bull. So it's the long price times our shares. So this is like current value. This bull price here is the price we paid for them. This is the actual value of them. Then we're going to add to that. This is the complicated part of the algorithm, or of the calculation. Got to add pos 2 times the bear price, then we have to subtract pos 2 times the bear price minus the number of shorts we have, pos 2 times the bull price. I think this is accurate. Maybe missing a parenthesis somewhere. Think there? Anyway, we're not actually going to be able to test the value functionality until we have shorts, and we don't have them right now. But if you're seeing weird looking values in your interface, this is where the bug's going to be. For right now, it's going to be accurate because we're only dealing with long shares and long price, and that's simple. Okay. Next up, let's do the go long function, and we pass in the number of shares we're going to go long with. And we're actually going to do this at the same time as we do max long and long cost, because they're all very similar. So long cost is the easiest one. It's number of shares we send in plus 100,000 the commission. And max long is going to say we got to first calculate the number of shares we can afford. And there's an easy way to figure out how much money you have, even if you don't have access to player.money, which we don't in this class. We don't want to import it, it's 2 gigs. But the cheapest way to get it is, get server money available at home. Your money available at home is how much money you have. So we're going to take that, we're going to subtract the commission. Then we're going to divide that by, that's the number of shares we can afford, unless this max shares. So we can't ever buy more than the maximum amount of shares minus this position. So max shares minus how many we already have. So this will return the smallest value of how many shares we can afford or how many shares we're allowed to buy. And we're going to go in and floor that. So we get an integer out of it. And then we'll pass that into shares. Actually, I don't want to pass that straight in. I want to say if our money, or if we're buying enough shares, right? Let me use 2 million here. So we don't want to just buy one share. We'll never make back the commission value. So I'm just going to say 2 million. You can use whatever number you want here. But if we're buying more than 2 million in shares, go in and buy the shares. Otherwise, don't do anything. And the function for go long is list.ns.stockbuy. Yep, TIX.buy, symbol, shares, done. And it returns price we paid for the shares. And I actually want to return the number of shares we bought, so I'm going to return this times that. Or sorry, I want to return the total amount of money we spent. So that'll be the price we paid for the shares times the number of shares we purchased. All right, I think that gets us through all of the TIX functionality. Oh, I forgot unbuy. Shares. Default's going to be how many shares we have. And then we'll just return this.ns.sell. So we can either pass in a value or default to unbuying all of our shares. Syntax error somewhere. Usually just comment stuff out, see if I can find that syntax error. Then the import. Okay, so it's somewhere in that huge chunk of stuff. That looks good. That looks good. Might be in here. Get go long shares. This in a stock buy. Everything looks good. Maybe it's here. All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna shut this video off and debug it so I don't spend 15 minutes on it. It's gonna be some stupid typo somewhere. All right, that was typo here. This dot ticker, and then also these can't be getters. That was the problem. You can do getters when you don't have any params, like we want position to just be stock.position, but go long has to be a function, so it's got to be curly braced. That's it, now it works. Okay. Make sure I didn't have any syntax errors here, and I do. Alright, because I didn't do these yet. Forecast and volatility. Get volatility and get forecast. There we go. Get forecast returns the forecast of this ticker, and the volatility returns volatility of this ticker. Yeah, I think we're good to go. We can jump in on logic. That's the limit of what I wanted to do on video 1, just the 4S TIX APIs. In the future, we'll come back and we'll update. Well, we won't change those classes, but we'll create new classes for shorts and so on. All right, so logic. We'll need a while loop. And we'll, at the end of it, sleep 6 seconds, because that's how long it takes for stocks to update by default. And what do we want to do in this loop? Well, first we want to instantiate our stock list, so we need a list of stocks. I have one of those somewhere. Here we go. So I just like to use a const with the stock names in it. You can use get ticker or get symbols, but you know what the symbols are going to be, so just hard code it. Never changes. And we're going to iterate through that just like we did in our servers loop when we're creating server objects. For let s of stock list. We need to import stock from if.stock, import whatever the next thing was called, tick stock, and actually we won't use tick stock right now, we'll use 4S tick stock. We won't need this one either, but we'll keep it up there. So just importing 4 sigma tick stock. And we know we're passing in the ticker. We'll create an array. We'll push 4 sigma tick stock to that array. And then we should be good. We'll have a list of stocks. They're converted to objects. Then we'll need to update cache. Actually, let's not await it. Let's just put it on the loop. Okay, now we're ready for when do we want to buy and sell stocks. And this should be pretty easy. We're going to use our permissions. Here, we're going to say if permissions and WC. Well, let's start with if not permissions and WC. Because if we don't even have WC, we just return, right? We just leave the script entirely. And then if permissions and, oh, that's acl.wc, acl.TIX4S, then we're going to enter into our TIX4S list. For let stock, stocks. Iterate through the list of stocks. Sell any stock that's underperforming. And we're going to do that if stock.forecast is less than 0.5. Okay. Then spend all of our money on the most profitable stock. So how do we find the most profitable stock? The easiest way to do that would be probably to sort Sort B to A by forecast. So that sorts all of our stocks descending by forecast. So the first stock on the list will be the highest forecast stock, e.g. the most profitable one. And then got to put that above this. We need another for loop. So first we're going to try to sell everything so that we have the maximum amount of money, so that when we come back to the buy loop and we start over again and we're looking at the most profitable stock, we will spend all of our money on that. And that's going to be stock max, what did I call it? Max long. I think that might be good to go. We've got the 4 Sigma TIX stock class, got a stock list, got the ACLs, setting all of our permissions correctly so that permissions and works. And we're starting our loop, pushing stock objects, updating the cache for every one of them. And if we have 4S data, we're just going to use the forecast. Sorting stocks by the forecast, and then unbuying stocks that are unprofitable. And then starting from the first stock, attempting to max long it. Let's run this and see what happens. Well, we spent all of our money. Question is, did we spend it on the most profitable stock? No, we spent it on something with +2. I think we're probably good to go. Let's just verify that though with some kind of a printout. So at the end of this list, before we sleep, we'll clear the log and we'll print something. Probably want to go for S of stocks and print a line for every stock. We'll print the ticker. Actually, I'm going to use the pretty table library for this. Import pretty table. We're going to let pt equal new pretty table. And we're going to instantiate rows, headers. Headers are going to be ticker, forecast, and position. For every stock, we're going to push a row to the pretty table. And then, what is it? pt.create? I forget. I'm going to have to look it up. It is pt.create. Headers and rows, and then we can ns print pretty table. All right, so what's going in our rows? We need to push stock.ticker, stock.forecast, and we've got that position.value. That's why we added that in. So if you recall, this position object gets a value, which is the value of our current shares, which is what we really care about. Now the problem is these two are going to look like crap. there's going to be really long floating point numbers. So we're going to format them. Forecast is going to be a 3-digit floating point, and value is going to be a 1-digit with like a millions, billions, trillions label on it. So let's kill this and run it again. There we go. We did buy the stock with the highest forecast, and we've got $191 billion in it. Let's see if that's accurate. Yep. So the total cost that we spent is 182, but the profit is 7.58 billion. So this plus this is 190, 191, close enough. Cool. So yeah, our position's continually increasing. It looks like every time it ticks, well, every time it ticks is recalculating based on the value of the stock. We're not earning any more money actively. So I could run our main script and then switch that to switch it to the Hack Week Grow Week loop. That might take a minute to actually get going, but once we see the money flowing in, we'll see that we're buying more stocks. Okay, so now there's a new most profitable stock, but ECP has not become unprofitable yet, so it's not going to sell it until it drops before 535, which it's not done yet. So any new money would go into FSIG, but ECP would stay around until it flipped its sign and became unprofitable. Oh, but that's basically the entire stock market script for TIX4S. Yeah, see, we just got some new money in and it went straight into 4 Sigma. And I'm pretty happy with that. I think we'll call this video here and in the next video talk about shorting, because that becomes a lot more complicated.